School bully picks on the wrong quiet girl. 10 seconds later, he regrets it instantly. Have you ever underestimated someone because of their quiet nature or appearance? What if that person, the one everyone overlooks, was hiding a secret that could change everything in just seconds? Jake was the typical school bully, strong, confident, and used to watching others shrink in fear before him. To him, Lily was just another easy target, silent, timid, someone who would never fight back. But Jake was about to learn a lesson he would never forget, because Lily was not just any girl. And in 10 seconds, he would deeply regret ever messing with her. Lily always kept to herself. She walked the school halls with her head down, her long dark hair covering part of her face. She never spoke unless necessary, never engaged in gossip, and never reacted when people whispered about her. It wasn't that she was afraid. She just preferred silence. But in high school, silence was often mistaken for weakness, and for someone like Jake, that was an invitation. Jake was the kind of guy who thrived on making others feel small. His towering presence, cocky smirk, and reputation for picking on the weird kids made him the undisputed king of intimidation. He loved attention, and the easiest way to get it was by making someone else miserable. And Lily? She was the perfect target. She didn't have many friends. She never stood up for herself, and most importantly, she never fought back. At least that's what Jake thought. He just had no idea who he was dealing with. Started small, just like it always did. Jake would accidentally bump into Lily in the hallways, making her drop her books. He would lean against her locker, blocking her way until she was forced to wait or take the long route around. "Oops," he'd say with a smirk. "Didn't see you there, quiet girl." At lunch, he and his friends would snicker as he casually pulled her chair back just as she was about to sit down. She would stumble slightly but never fall. She would just stand up straight, adjust her chair, and sit down again, never looking in his direction. The lack of reaction annoyed him. Most kids would glare, complain, or even cry. That's what made it fun. But Lily? She just ignored him. Jake hated being ignored, so he escalated. One afternoon, as Lily walked past him in the hallway, he snatched her notebook out of her hands. "What's this?" he taunted, flipping through the pages. "A diary? Love notes." Lily reached out calmly. "Give it back." The way she said it, steady, controlled, made Jake hesitate for half a second. But then he laughed. "You going to make me?" The kids around them laughed too, the sound fueling his ego. Lily sighed, as if she were tired of the entire situation. But she didn't argue. She didn't demand. She just turned around and walked away. And that only made Jake want to push further. He had no idea he was pushing himself straight into a mistake he wouldn't be able to undo. Jake thought he had won. He had taken her notebook, humiliated her in front of everyone, and she had just walked away. But what he didn't know, what no one knew, was that Lily wasn't walking away because she was scared. She was walking away because she had promised herself she wouldn't fight. Not again. Not after what happened last time. Lily had spent years training under her father, a man who had dedicated his life to martial arts. He wasn't just some weekend hobbyist. He was a former military instructor, a man who had taught soldiers how to fight, how to survive. And he had trained Lily since she could walk. By the age of 10, she could take down grown men twice her size. By 12, she could disarm an opponent in seconds. And by 15, she had learned the hardest lesson of all: how much damage she was truly capable of. She had never wanted to hurt anyone. But once, when she was younger, someone had pushed her too far. A boy, much bigger than her, had tried to corner her. It had taken her less than 3 seconds to put him on the ground. He had screamed. His arm twisted at an unnatural angle, and everyone had stared at her as if she was some kind of monster. After that, she had made a choice. She would never fight unless she had no other option. So when Jake tormented her, when he tried to break her, she did what she had trained herself to do. She controlled her emotions. She walked away. But Jake didn't realize that he was playing with fire, and soon he would push her to the point where she had no choice but to let that fire burn. Jake wasn't satisfied. Lily's refusal to react only made him more determined to break her. He needed to see fear in her eyes. He needed her to acknowledge that he was in control. So he waited for the perfect moment. It happened after school, in the hallway near the lockers, when most of the students had already left. A few lingered, chatting and scrolling through their phones, but no teachers were around. Lily was at her locker, calmly putting her books away, when she felt a presence behind her. She already knew who it was. "Hey, quiet girl," Jake said, leaning against the locker next to hers. "Still pretending I don't exist?" She didn't answer. That irritated him. With a smirk, he reached out and grabbed the silver chain around her neck. A simple, delicate necklace she always wore. "What's this?" he taunted, tugging it slightly. For the first time, Lily reacted. Her hand shot up, gripping his wrist. Not tight, not aggressive, just firm. "Let go," she said. Jake chuckled. "Or what?" And then he yanked. The chain snapped. The small pendant fell into his palm. And the moment it did, Lily's entire expression changed. The air around them shifted. The hallway, once filled with background noise, laughter, footsteps, distant chatter, seemed to go silent. Jake suddenly felt something he had never felt before. Unease. Lily slowly lifted her eyes to his. For the first time, she really looked at him, and what Jake saw wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was something much worse. Cold, quiet calculation. Something inside him told him he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. And in 10 seconds, he would know exactly why. The silence in the hallway stretched. Jake's smirk faltered, just slightly. He had expected Lily to get mad. Maybe even yell. He had expected her to snatch at the necklace, to show some kind of weakness. But she didn't. She just stared at him. And then she moved. It happened so fast that Jake didn't even register it at first. One moment he was standing tall, confident, holding her broken necklace in his palm. The next, pain. A sharp, twisting pain shot through his wrist as Lily's fingers locked around it like a vice. Before he could react, her foot swept his leg out from under him. His back hit the ground hard. Gasps echoed around them. The few students left in the hallway froze, eyes wide. Jake tried to scramble up, but Lily was already moving. In one fluid motion, she flipped his arm, twisting it behind his back in a hold so tight he couldn't move. For the first time in his life, Jake couldn't move. He struggled, but it was useless. He wasn't in control anymore. Lily leaned in close, her voice as calm as ever. "I told you to let go." Jake gritted his teeth. "Let me up." Lily didn't tighten her grip. She didn't need to. She simply leaned forward and whispered, "Say please." Jake's face burned. He could hear the whispers, the shocked murmurs of the students around them. He could feel the weight of their stares. He had never felt this humiliated before, and he had never felt this helpless. Jake had always been the one who made others feel small, the one who controlled the fear. But now he understood what it felt like to be powerless. His fingers clenched against the cold floor, his jaw tightened, and then, finally, "Please." Lily let go immediately, stepping back like nothing had happened. Jake scrambled to his feet, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. She didn't gloat. She didn't mock him. She simply reached down, picked up the broken necklace from the floor, and turned away. Jake stood there, frozen, because for the first time in his life he wasn't the predator. He was the prey. Jake didn't move. His mind was still trying to process what had just happened. 1 second he was standing over Lily, taunting her like always. The next he was on the ground, completely at her mercy. "How?" The other students were whispering now, their eyes darting between Jake and Lily. He could feel their shock, their disbelief. He had spent years building his reputation as the untouchable school bully, and in less than 10 seconds, Lily had shattered it. He clenched his fists. His pride burned hotter than the pain in his wrist. But before he could say anything, someone else spoke. "Dude, do you even know who she is?" Jake turned, his eyes locking onto one of the kids in the crowd. A guy from the wrestling team, staring at Lily with something that looked like recognition. "What are you talking about?" Jake snapped. The guy shook his head in disbelief. "That's Lily Quan. Her dad's a freaking martial arts legend. He trains military personnel, pro fighters, He's like world-class. Jake's stomach twisted. The whispers spread. Others were nodding, confirming the story. Someone pulled out their phone and started searching. Within seconds, a video popped up. A blurry clip of Lily at a competition, moving so fast it barely looked real. She took down 3 opponents in seconds, her movements precise and controlled. Jake swallowed hard. She had never been weak. She had never been afraid of him. She had just been holding back. And the worst part? She had let him go. Not because she couldn't hurt him, but because she had chosen not to. His fists clenched at his sides. He wanted to be angry. He wanted to find a way to take back control. But for the first time in his life, Jake had no idea what to do. He could feel the weight of the stairs around him. The hallway, which had always been his stage, was now his courtroom, and he was on trial. The whispers continued. She took him down in seconds. He looked terrified. Dude, he picked the wrong girl. Jake's heart pounded. He'd spent years making others feel small, years enjoying the fear in their eyes. But now the fear was his. Lily stood there, calm as ever, holding the broken necklace in her hands. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. Jake felt his face burn. His pride screamed at him to fight back, to say something, to do something. But deep down, he knew if he pushed her again, she wouldn't just warn him next time. He had lost. And the worst part? She had given him the chance to walk away with dignity. The crowd was still watching, waiting, expecting a reaction. Jake swallowed hard. Then, with a clenched jaw, he turned and walked away. No one moved to follow him. No one laughed. No one cheered. Because the king of the school wasn't a king anymore. Lily? She just sighed, pocketed her broken necklace, and walked off in the opposite direction, completely unfazed. And just like that, the predator became the prey, the bully became the lesson, and Jake? He would never underestimate the quiet ones again. There's a saying, never mistake silence for weakness. Lily wasn't weak. She was patient. She knew her strength but chose not to use it unless she had no other choice. And when she did, it took less than 10 seconds to change everything. Jake learned his lesson that day the hard way. And now the question is, what would you have done in his place? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more.